Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Friday, April 17th, 2026. Almost 6 years and a month since we have come together to learn together, to lift each other up with friends like Jonathan and Deborah. Penny, thank you. It's broadcast 1529. It's good to see all of you. Hope that you and yours are safe and well. Louise, nice to see you. Arlene and John, Neil, good to see you too. Linda and Rose. Jerry, thanks for letting us know. This Sunday is Arlene's birthday. So, happy birthday, Arlene. This Torah is for you, dedicated by your brother. That is so sweet. Rosa and Carl, Sharon and George, Boker Tov. Arlene, there you go. Happy birthday. Patricia and Amy, Barry and Jack, good morning. Hi, Scott. Hope that everyone is doing well. Let's take a breath. We're going to sing a bracha, learn a little bit of Torah. Here we go. Deborah, you're heading into another doctor's appointment, blessing you with good news and good health. Judy, good to see you. Chodesh Tov, everybody. It's a new month. Karen, thank you too. Safta Stieber. Carl, today is your dad's 96th birthday. Sending you and your father love. Today's Torah is for him too. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Ariel. Nice to see you. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ay ya la la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, hafok la'asok b'divrei Torah. Today, la 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 la. Today, la 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 la. Ay la la la. So, good morning, everybody. It's beautiful to see on multiple platforms, because we're on Facebook and Instagram, that there are people on each platform wishing happy birthday to everybody everywhere, which is very sweet. And Siona is sharing that tomorrow is her mother's 92nd birthday. So happy birthday also to your mom. It is beautiful to be able to celebrate these things. Thank you for sharing, as we always have, all of the good stuff, because everything else might be true too, but the good stuff is what we need most of all. So thank you, friends. There's a lot to talk about, and this week we have spoken about, well, a lot of it. Parshat Tazria Metzora, we read these two Torah portions, are very much about the things that we've talked about. They are about when something happens to our bodies, something out of control, some kind of emission, or when a woman gives birth, the fluids that are involved in that. And part of what makes this parsha so hard is just how visceral it is, how bodily it is. And it's hard to talk about. In fact, within the parsha, there are also sections that we would probably dispute the difference between having a baby girl and a baby boy, and the impact of that on the woman who gave birth, on the mother, and the Torah's understanding of gender. There are so many things to talk about. But what I want to make sure we don't leave behind is the role of the community that is being described to. If we could examine just for a moment an aspect of the parsha we didn't speak about yet, which is, let's say, the specific bodily thing that happens is the tzara'at, the thing that's mistranslated as leprosy, the skin ailment that can be on clothing or on the wall of your home as well. So, what do? If you think you might have it, you go to the priest, and the priest examines either you or your clothing or the wall, and the priest determines whether or not it is tsara'at, whether or not it is actually that skin ailment, the spiritual ailment that is manifest on our bodies. So, just for a second, think about the power of being that priest who says whether or not the thing that looks like it might be tsara'at really is. That is enormous power to determine who's in or who's out, because if you do have it, you have to be outside the camp for a period of time. And yes, it's temporary, but it is still a distancing. It's an alienation. It's a quarantine from community. So the role of the priest is to determine whether or not this thing is what it looks like. And the interesting thing is, this is a combination of the biblical language and the rabbinic comments on it. If the priest looks at it and determines that it is tsara'at, if it is tsara'at, then you listen, and the person has to go through that process. But if the priest looks at it, and let's say to the eye that is not priestly, it is obviously tsara'at, but the priest says it is not tsara'at, then it isn't. So I know I'm using the word tsara'at over and over, and it probably gets a little confusing. Let me say it in English. If you think you've got it, and the priest looks, and you do have it, but the priest says you don't, you don't. And therefore there's no distancing of the person who's worried that something about them would cause distance from community. The priest can say, no, you stay close. The Torah affirms the place of the priest to determine who's in and who's out. And the priest can decide that someone who technically should be distanced from community doesn't need to be. What a role of access granting the priest actually has. In our day and age, we don't really have priests. There are those who believe that they are descendants of Aaron HaKohen, and there are beautiful ways that this manifests in community. Some shuls still have the priests offer that blessing that Leonard Nimoy channeled for TV. And it is magical. I have been under my tallis with my family, holding them close as the priests bless us. It is truly, truly magical to feel so blessed with an ancient channeling of blessing and love. But in our day and age, that at best is a temporary honor. It isn't a full-time identity. We don't have priests who function like that. But you know what we do have? We do have clergy. We have rabbis. We have in many shuls presidents or ushers. We've been blessed to have security guards who also function as smiling faces to welcome us in to our sacred spaces. The role of that boundary keeper, the first person you see when you go to a sacred community, that is what has replaced, in a certain sense, the role of the priest. And they can make you feel welcome or not. In the Torah, we are called a Mamlechet Kohanim, a kingdom of priests. We can decide who belongs and who doesn't. And why would we decide that someone doesn't? Why would we ever see something different about someone and say, this keeps you from being inside? We wouldn't. And we learned that from the teaching this week. If the priest can look at someone who has tsara'at, this skin ailment, a spiritual skin ailment, and the priest can say, you're fine. You're good. Come in. Then we can too. And if you can welcome someone in, then you must welcome everyone in. The goal of every worthy tradition, including ours, friends, is to extend the circles of belonging until we all finally remember that we belong to each other. This week's Torah portion is complicated, but its lesson is urgent. There are things that do separate us, and sometimes quarantine is necessary, and perhaps there are redemptive ways to read the distancing between a person and her community. A chance for recovery, a chance for healing, a chance to protect from contagion. All of this is worthy of our consideration, but the meta narrative here is beautiful. The meta narrative is gatekeepers should weigh their own responsibilities against their community's need for cohesion and intimacy. We truly need to be close. My wife was reminding me of when I spoke about these two Torah portions just after the beginning of the pandemic, where Tazria and Metzora felt very similar to the way we were beginning to speak about COVID. That distance was necessary. I know we don't want to go back in our memories to those days, so I'm not suggesting we do it in detail. But how urgently important it is for us to remember how painful it was to see closeness with someone else as a threat. Deep down, friends, we know that we are not there anymore, and therefore the ache to be together is something we should make sure to answer by opening the doorways into community and into connection. One of the biggest learnings that I walked away with after the pandemic was not only how important community is to me, but also how granting access to those who weren't able to be physically present in the first place brought a sense of closeness back into their lives. Every successive lesson here is for us to take very seriously and to learn from, so that this Parsha can be a source of connection in our world, in our day. May we remember, may the world remember someday soon, that the goal is to belong to each other, is to always be welcome anywhere we go. May we make especially sure that sacred spaces where we serve as a Mamlechet Kohanim, as a kingdom of priests, have their doors wide open, safe, protected, and inviting. Let's send our hearts to the east. Let's sing as we get ready for Shabbat and the month of Iyar. Kolon v'levav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom, friends.